We're initiating our coverage today on Bank of Maharashtra, trading on the National Stock Exchange under the ticker MHBank. The primary reason we're putting this stock under the microscope right now is directly tied to its technicals. The price action is aggressively approaching its multi-year highs, sitting right around 89 rupees and 46 paise. So, this explainer is going to provide an institutional equity research and turnaround analysis of this public sector lender. We'll be objectively evaluating both the cyclical momentum pushing it up and the structural limitations that might cap its midterm valuation.
Looking closer at the technical chart, you can see exactly why there's so much interest. It is on a clear breakout trajectory, pushing well above both the 50-month and 200-month exponential moving averages. Couple that with a strongly elevated relative strength index, and the momentum is undeniable. But as we know, technical breakouts absolutely require fundamental fuel to keep going. So let's pivot and look under the hood at the underlying fundamental engine that's actually driving this price action.
As of mid-June 2026, Bank of Maharashtra isn't just coasting, it's executing a massive structural turnaround. We're talking about a transition from a regional public sector unit into a highly efficient national-level competitor. Right now, at peak efficiency, the bank commands a market capitalization of 69,332 crore rupees. What's really notable here, though, is the valuation multiple. It's trading at a trailing 12-month price-to-earnings ratio of 9.88x and a price-to-book ratio of just 1.82x. This solid mid-cap valuation profile is anchored by a recent S&P Global rating upgrade to BBB-, which is a massive signal of robust structural health and a significantly lower risk of default.
Now, the real foundation of the bank's structural moat, it's their extreme geographic concentration. You see, Maharashtra is India's highest contributing state to the national GDP, and MAHABANK possesses a profound, almost textbook home field advantage here. Get this, they house exactly 43% of their entire global physical branch network within this single state. This kind of intense, localized density allows the bank to capture a staggering 71.6% of its total customer deposits and originate 51.7% of its standard advances directly from its home base. It is essentially a regional monopoly. And this regional dominance feeds directly into what we like to call their zero-cost liability engine. Because the bank has these incredibly deep-seated relationships with state government departments and local civic bodies, they secure a massive funnel of highly stable, zero-cost current account balances. This structural advantage drives an industry peak CASA ratio, that's current account and savings account, of 52.5%. Ultimately, this means the bank maintains the absolute lowest cost of deposits relative to its nationalized peers, safely insulating its net interest margin at a very healthy 3.90%.
So what does this stable funding base actually do? Well, it's catalyzed a multi-year structural recovery straight to the bottom line. Net profit, or PAT, has compounded at an exceptional 4-year compound annual growth rate of 57.13%. To put that in perspective, they scaled their net profit from 1,151 crore rupees back in FY22 to an impressive 7,019 crore rupees by FY26. And just as importantly, they've used this earnings growth to significantly deleverage the balance sheet. They successfully brought their calculated debt-to-equity ratio down from 15.13x to 11.65x, massively strengthening their total shareholders' equity cushion. Moving over to the asset side, the bank has pulled off a highly strategic, high-yield credit reorientation. Total gross credit advances are currently sitting at 288,104 crore rupees, showing a really strong 21.74% year-over-year growth rate. But the crucial point here isn't just the growth, it's where that capital is being deployed. Management deliberately pivoted away from large corporate syndicates. Instead, they've allocated over 60% of the total portfolio toward the RAM segment, that's retail, agriculture, and MSME. This granular focus is driven by massive localized growth. We're seeing housing credit up 29%, vehicle loans surging by 56%, and gold loans expanding by a massive 53%.
Now, to surface all this granular retail growth without letting expenses completely balloon out of control, they've aggressively pursued digital migration, and this is a brilliant illustration of their lean operational framework. By rolling out end-to-end digital underwriting platforms like Zen Life and Maha Mobile, they've successfully expanded across non-home states while keeping customer acquisition costs way below private sector benchmarks. The math on this is undeniable. It's resulted in a compression of their cost-to-income ratio down to an industry-leading 37.08%. That is the lowest cost ratio among their mid-sized public sector peers. For anyone watching, it proves they can actually scale up without bleeding cash.
And all of this structural profitability, it is entirely underpinned by an industry-leading asset quality profile, which comes after years of serious balance sheet cleanup. Gross non-performing assets have systematically dropped from nearly 4% down to just 1.45%. But even more compelling is the net NPA ratio. It has reached a record low of a mere 0.13%, backed by a fortress-like provision coverage ratio of 98.59%. Standard asset coverage is also sitting tight at 98.26%. Make no mistake, this immaculate asset quality is exactly what supports their massive return profile, yielding a 1.86% return on assets and a whopping 24.25% return on equity.
Let's do a quick direct comparison with a market leader, State Bank of India. When we look at the numbers side by side, MAHABANK's fundamental outperformance is stark. While SBI carries a massive 9.4 lakh crore rupee market cap, MAHABANK vastly outpaces them in domestic credit expansion, registering 21.74% credit growth versus SBI's 13%. On top of that, MAHABANK achieves a superior return on assets at 1.86% compared to SBI's 1.10%, all while maintaining the absolute lowest gross NPA profile among the major state-owned banking institutions. It's definitely punching above its weight class. This sustained level of outperformance has naturally catalyzed some vital institutional validation. Following that recent S&P rating upgrade we mentioned, foreign institutional investors' shareholding surged from just 0.39% in 2023 up to 5.80% by early fiscal year 2027. Domestic institutional investors now hold an additional 6.86%. Crucially, the government of India optimized its promoter stake down to 73.60%. This is a big deal because it successfully satisfies regulatory minimum public shareholding standards, completely removing the overhang of forced equity dilution. And they managed to do all this while still maintaining an exceptionally strong 18.36% capital adequacy ratio.
Section 1. Structural Headwinds. Evaluating the bear case.
All right, so let's shift gears and look at the risks, starting with our first imminent structural headwind, tax normalization. Historically, Bank of Maharashtra benefited from a massive tax shield of approximately 8,000 crore rupees in carry-forward losses. Well, that shield is now fully depleted. The new reality dictates a mandatory transition to the standard corporate tax regime, which means the projected effective tax rate is going to sharply normalize to around 13 to 14% of operating profit. This is a direct, unavoidable structural headwind to their net profit margins and, by extension, the future trajectory of their return on assets. The second, and honestly potentially more severe headwind, is the impending transition to the Reserve Bank of India's Expected Credit Loss, or ECL, regime. Targeted for implementation on April 1, 2027, this framework changes the game. It requires provisioning for bad loans before they ever actually default. Currently, standard asset provisioning sits at a low base of 0.4%, but under ECL, any Stage 2 asset that's overdue by more than 30 days is going to require a minimum floor provision of 5%. The bank's own internal assessments project a 2,500 crore rupee incremental provisioning drain over a 6-year glide path. That is a significant cost that will continuously absorb their quarterly operating profits. Compounding those financial pressures is a really glaring operational vulnerability. We're talking about a severe manpower deficit. Internal reporting reveals a rather alarming localized reality across their network. Right now, 147 branches are operating with absolutely zero clerical staff, and an astonishing 1,500 branches are operating with zero substaff. This internal deficit forces the bank to increasingly rely on contractual outsourcing, which opens up some severe risk vectors. Specifically, it introduces service speed bottlenecks, elevates transaction monitoring compliance risks, and honestly exposes them to cybersecurity vulnerabilities, particularly out in their rural and semi-urban branch locations. Now, to be fair, management isn't just sitting idle. They are actively deploying strategic defenses and capital fortification to counter these vulnerabilities. Executive leadership was recently bolstered by the appointment of Sushanta Kumar Mohanty to help scale non-interest income verticals. On the capital expansion front, the board just approved a massive 7,500 crore rupee equity raise plan to further optimize that government stake. This is happening alongside issuing 10,000 crore rupees in long-term infrastructure bonds and preparing for a $500 million foreign currency bond issuance. Plus, they've proactively set up a specialized 200 crore rupee global geopolitical uncertainty provision buffer, which directly reflects some newly tightened underwriting audit standards in their gold loan divisions.
Let's bring this all together for our final synthesis, the margin cushion test. On the bullish side of the scale, you have a bank hitting a cyclical peak, driven by that massive 52.5% low-cost CASA dominance, explosive 21.74% credit growth momentum, and a rock-solid 0.13% net NPA foundation. But on the bearish side, you have structural gravity pulling downward. You've got that impending 2,500 crore rupee ECL provisioning drain, normalized tax rate compression, and unresolved geographic and staffing concentrations. The bank's impressive 1.86% ROA is sitting directly on the fulcrum of this scale. So, the ultimate question for us objectively evaluating the data is this: can MAHABANK's localized profit engine actually outrun the structural gravity of rising taxes and forced credit provisions? Or is this phenomenal turnaround story about to hit a hard regulatory wall?